Fear not, citizens, hope has arrived because we are back with more My Hero Academia. This is the Amateur Otaku podcast where we discuss everything we love about anime and manga. And for today, we are talking the MHA manga, the latest chapter to hit Viz, Manga Plus, everywhere you get your manga chapters. Joining me, as always, is my co-host and great friend, Isaac Wolf, the punster villain. How you doing, Isaac?
I'm tired, but I'm good. It's always crazy around here, aren't it?
Oh yeah,
Isn't it?
very very crazy. But you want to know what else is pretty crazy?
My Hero Academia's latest chapter.
Yes, sir. And speaking of which, look at this, just amazing cover by Horikoshi Sensei. Fantastic. This chapter is titled Endeavor with Shoto on the cover, wielding both his flames and his ice. It's beautiful. If you guys aren't caught up with My Hero Academia, that is your spoiler warning. This image isn't really a spoiler, it's just dope. So if you made it this far without realizing this was a spoiler discussion, please, uh, that's your final warning. We'll catch you guys in the fall when the anime hits. With that said, then we're going to get into this chapter. And so we pick things up where we left off. Shoto is fighting Toya and Dabi and seemingly won. And I wanted to get your opinion on this, Isaac, because this entire chapter is kind of just like a victory lap for Shoto. Not necessarily him taking it himself, but for all the heroes and everybody around him talking about how proud they are of him for defeating Dabi and overcoming this great evil, one of the heads of the Paranormal Liberation Army. Is it weird? Does it feel like something bad is about to happen? Like, is Dabi gonna wake back up?
I mean, with how he looked in the previous chapters, he could be everything from down because he's so destroyed that last part of him, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I would at the same time not be shocked if he gets up. And I have to ask just a random question. I know that, but in page 5, one of the women that at the top right, doesn't she look like one of the Tengen's wives in from Demon Slayer? I know that's off topic, but it's just so weird.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, Horikoshi's the same guy who put Chainsaw Man in the background of one of his books, so I can't even put it past him and say, "Oh, that's just a coincidence." No, it's probably not. It's probably 100% a reference to Demon Slayer.
Yeah, but anyway, besides that, I feel like this is something that he wanted to. They went into the conclusion because Dabi is down, as in he wanted to give the heroes a moral scenario, so giving them better morale to be able to fight better. Because if Dabi gets quote unquote down, we don't know if he's going to get up or not.
Mm-hmm.
Then they will, the other ones will feel, we might have a shot after all.
Yeah.
So
I see what you're coming from. Just me as a reader, again, I have no respect for Dabi's power at all. I've said that since the beginning. So, like, I feel like Shoto should have took down Dabi faster than what he did, personally. That's just me.
honestly, the only reason why he didn't is probably because he is Shota and Dabi is still, in terms of if you look in from the biological sense, his brother, and
Yeah.
so that could be the reason why he quote unquote hold back or whatever you want to call it.
True. I just want to talk about how great, like, look at this first. It's technically page 3, but like the first page of the story in this chapter, right? You just see the look on Shoto's face, the look on Burnen's face, and Dabi's face. It's just like the art in this chapter is great, and it's Horikoshi is again great at hitting you with the emotions because you see All Might crying, you see Ashido's face and Mineta's face even, and it's just really cool seeing how they all support Shoto, especially knowing again wrapping up his story in a really cool way, knowing where he came from, him being a loner, him pushing people away, having the last chapter where he says this is my power and then we see everybody supporting him is just really awesome, and I love that like ending to Shoto's arc. Endeavor's arc isn't done clearly when you look at the end of this chapter, but Shoto's I feel like has kind of come full circle, which is really neat.
Yeah. And I have to ask, is in page 6, or should I say 7, the female I can't really tell. Is that Endeavor's assistant, or is that Mount Lady? Because it's hard to see there.
That's Mount Lady's costume. It looks like she has maybe a ponytail or a haircut, and she's giant.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting because in that chapter, we're talking about we have this new villain with a weird tube thing coming out of his mouth. It's a cool design, but I have no idea who this guy is. Hopefully, we learn about him soon. But I think it's interesting how he's saying we're going to crush them beneath our boots, just like that UA teacher, and that was just
It looks like midnight.
Oh yeah, I mean, remember she got squashed by Gigantomachia.
Yeah,
and that like the look on Ashido's face in the next panel, it's so good. I can't wait to see what because her and Kirishima are the ones who took down Makia, but they're also two of the ones that grieved Midnight the hardest. So I'm hoping we have a Red Riot Pinky battle with this new villain in the next couple
probably
chapters.
it's probably sort of like a revenge chapter, considering he mentioned her, sort of like that,
which is good because I'm gonna be honest, the Horikoshi, this is why I keep saying his pacing issue is that you kill off a character like Midnight may not be a major character to us, the reader, but she's important to them because she's their teacher, just like Aizawa. So I feel like we should have had more time dedicated to that part of the story, but Deku left. And so this is again a case of we missed a lot of character growth while Deku was away. And we mentioned that in the last episode.
Yeah, which is something why we would like to, I wouldn't call it filler, but we would like to have, like I mentioned earlier, we would like to have later season to have them training in being a Titan style filler, considering they don't have a training arc between them being going to train and then being recruits in the the Attack on Titan manga.
Yeah, it's funny because something Western comics do a lot, and I don't really see it in manga, is the art of the tie-in story, right? So, for example, you can have like Deceased is a DC Comics Elseworld story, and it's a giant event, but there's a tie-in story that's like, hey, this story is about Red Hood, Deathstroke, Bane, while the main story was about Superman, Batman, yada yada yada. So the tie-in story is supplemental. You don't need to read it, but it just tells you, hey, this is what these characters were doing while the main cast was doing the main event. And so I feel like what My Hero can benefit from, and like you said in the anime, not necessarily filler episodes, but tie-in arcs that kind of fill in small holes throughout the story that aren't plot holes. It's just things we didn't get to see or something that he couldn't fit in time.
Yeah. Also, I know that we are skipping a few pages here, but I don't know if you remember, but we talked about how Skinner might have a Kirk evolution, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it look like he sort of become Godzilla in?
Yeah, well, we haven't gotten to that point in the story yet. You know, that's like 7 pages away. It's crazy though. First off, we're looking at all these set locations, kind of skimming through this. Also,
Yeah.
small update. Thank God Bakugo's alive because he shows up in this panel. Love it. Because we weren't sure what
Still,
happened to him and his team. They're fighting Shigaraki, remember?
still believing he's gonna bite it before the series ends, but go on.
Yeah. So glad to see that. We have a lot of new villains, a lot of assassins showing up, which is it makes me feel like they're still gonna be, even if they win, all these guys are, some of these guys are gonna escape, right? Is that where a part two takes place? We have to catch all these assassins and escaped criminals, like the Akatsuki in Shippuden.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, so Spinner shows up in chapter 12, and I love how they set it up because we see Present Mike and we see Shoji and we see Spinner fighting Shoji, but to scale, Shoji is like an ant compared to this guy. And it's funny because you were questioning about this being a quirk evolution. It's not, because of the very next page, All for One puts his hand on his face and he says he lacked power. And so he's giving him a new quirk.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's also crazy how Dabi rejected the new quirk. That probably could have helped him beat Shoto.
I mean, he wanted. It fits his character, considering he wanted to do his it in his own way.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. It's just funny because imagine if you gave him an ice quirk to counteract him burning himself, like he never wanted.
Yeah, then Shoto would probably not have quote unquote won that easy.
Shoto would have lost. If Dabi had Shoto's abilities, Dabi's so reckless, he is probably still willing to, death by suicide, take him and Shoto out at the same time.
Yeah.
So if he had Shoto's power, I feel like he would win now.
So, but it's funny that even though it's not a quirk evolution, I didn't think about the whole All Might giving. You know how I'm talking about giving him another power.
Mm-hmm.
I find it funny that we were right about him going Godzilla. It's just not the way we suspected.
It's the most basic quirk he could have given him, right? Like, man, the lizard guy becomes Godzilla. That is so boring. But I'm sure Horikoshi's going to make this work because that's how good of a writer he is.
Also, probably they made him Godzilla because, Godzilla. Didn't they also have a Godzilla cameo in Two Heroes?
Yes, Godzilla is a hero that we've met in the story, in a canon story. So I wonder if he's going to have to come in.
Exactly.
It's going to be two titans fighting each other.
That's what I mean. Maybe he made him a Godzilla so they could have a kaiju fight later on.
I swear to God, if Godzilla kidnaps Uraraka, I am done. We're not making King Kong references here, y'all. That'd be ridiculous.
And I'm serious. I wonder if it would be kind of fun if that was the case. Don't you agree?
It'd be a little funny, but I don't know if I'd like it. I do love how his sword now makes sense, though, right? Like, he's using the sword in that panel, and it's like, oh, finally, he can wield that stupid thing. We haven't seen that since season 3. It's a million blades.
Makes me just wondering about thinking about the whole meme about when you talked about it, you're wielding a sword, that must be hard. 2 swords, that must be hard. 3 swords, is that even practical? And then you get the idea.
Yeah, I do. It's hilarious though. What do you think? Like, we're introducing all these characters, and they don't look like they're just cannon fodder. They really feel like Horikoshi's setting up new bad guys. And considering how late in the game we think we are, do you think he's setting up a part 2, or do you think he's just saying, no, I want some dope villains for the final battle? Because it's weird. He sets up like 3 or 4 bad guys in this chapter alone.
I can see both way, honestly.
Gotcha.
I mean, maybe they set up for, like you said, a Shippuden episode where we have that My Hero Academia ends with all for one dies, but Shigaraki gets captured alive for some reason, and then Shigi escapes with a surviving villains, and then they need to hunt down Shigi in the Shippuden arc.
That would be dope. Not gonna lie.
I mean, that way
at the rate this is going, I agree. Like Shigaraki doesn't feel like the main villain of the story anyway at this point, so you could always hold on to that and bring him back later.
I mean, they didn't even say that he were open to continue have My Hero Academia continue with the writer of team up missions.
He didn't outright say that, but he did allude to like, hey, this is what I love about My Hero Academia. This is what I always wanted to read. So I feel like if they both agreed, he'd be like, yeah, you now it's your turn, right? Like All Might to Deku.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we have jokingly spoken about how that are going to give us another My Hero Academia's version of Shippuden, and I honestly do stand by that. I don't think it would work if both Shiggy and All for One dies at the end, honestly. Unless you remove, sort of like make Deku powerless and have someone else going the Boruto route, and for some reason having some other villains going. Yes, I'm not. Yes, we have another narrative reference, but are you really that surprised at this point?
I mean, I mentioned the Akatsuki like 10 minutes ago, so
yeah, fair point. But I was just thinking about how we. But when you talked about Akachi and all that, yes, that maybe they set it up so that All for One dies, Shigi gets the custody, and maybe a worshipper of Shigi saves him and the villains that gets captured and not killed.
It's definitely possible. Speaking of villains getting captured and not killed, though, Spinner's leading an army of villains, and we cut to Shoto and Ida again. Beautifully drawn panel. And Ida makes the observation that Dabi's still alive. He's not dead yet. And then we have a zoom in on his chest and a light. 1, is it a bomb? Or 2, did All for One give them like regen quirks or something? And so they're going to come back from this fight. Because nobody's died.
I mean, but how would he have a regeneration quirk if he dismissed the idea of having?
He dismissed that idea from what we saw, but like the doctor could have done something to him beforehand. Anything could have happened.
True. That's true. Weren't there talks about how we spoke about in a couple of episodes that Dabi's name has connection to Phoenix?
Yeah, Brandon mentioned that in the last episode, I think.
Yeah, I believe I mentioned that before also. It's Buddhism and Phoenix and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he has something regarding Phoenix Styles' ability.
Which would still have to come from All for One, though, right? Because nobody has 2 quirks. Like even like the closest would be Shoto, and he's got half cold, half hot. So I feel like it would still have to be some sort of experiment or quirk that was passed to him. because Deku is the only person to ever have multiple abilities that are two distinct quirks, whereas Shoto's is still one. So, do you think he was experimented on at some point? I mean, we already know that they probably were doing something to him as a child.
I mean, they probably did, considering how late he were quote unquote asleep.
Yeah.
But I also am thinking that maybe he has, going back to the whole Phoenix thing, maybe he has sort of like a fire that both kills him and rebirths him, so to speak. It's a fire that in general would kill him any time now. It still keeps him alive for the similar reason, in case if you get what I mean.
Yeah. I do like, Horikoshi loves him some Marvel references, so it kind of looks like Iron Man in that scene. With the circle of light in his chest. Which is funny.
He being a Marvel fan, I didn't know that.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I hear that they based this indie character you may not have heard of, Spider-Man, off of Izuku Midoriya himself. It kind of goes both ways. It's really cool, though.
Yeah.
So,
but it could also be a bomb. I wouldn't. So I wouldn't be surprised about that either.
Suicide Squad, baby. If it's a bomb, does Ida get everybody out, or does Shoto just like freeze the bomb?
I have no idea.
Yeah, but I don't know. You can't kill Ida and Shoto right then and there, can you? I mean, you could, but he won't. So,
I mean, this is we are supposedly in the final arc. I don't honestly, outside of Deku, but even there, I would argue that he isn't safe. I don't think anybody is safe, even though I'm more sure than ever that someone like Bakugo and All Might's gonna die.
You see, I'm on the flip side of that, though. I feel like, again, looking at something like Naruto or Dragon Ball, like, you have a giant battle. At this point in the story, nobody's gonna die. Come on. Like, at worst, Neji, sure.
Maybe not at the beginning of the fight because they need ammunition, but when you get longer into the fights and all that, yes, when it's starting to dwell down, that's where you can like maybe 2/3 of the fights or something.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like everybody's safe. That's my thing. Just about. It's funny how Izuku is the one character that I'm kind of on the fence about. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen in Deku, but everybody else, they're going to be fine. They're going to make it. Because we had one war already, and the only person who died was freaking Midnight. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this next chapter, though, because we end on a cliffhanger with Endeavor and Hawks and All for One. And so that's what's crazy.
And the fact that he is psychologically battling him is an understatement.
Yeah, Hawks is going to need to get his boy to snap out of it because Endeavor, he already, like, the first picture we see of him in this chapter, he looks lost. He looks like he's about to get destroyed.
I mean, the fact that his boy... he realized that his boy got conflicted because his biggest failure lost, but his biggest success won. So I would argue he's a big confused parent with a big C, if you get what I mean.
I totally get it, but he's fighting the baddest dude in history. He needs to snap out of it.
I'm not arguing this time. I'm not arguing about that one.
That's why I think like the next couple chapters are going to be interesting because we have the Pinky Red Riot fight with this new guy. We have Fat Gum dealing with another guy. We have whatever's going on with Dabi, whatever's going on with Spinner, and then we have All for One versus the Pros. Deku still needs to get to Bakugo and Mitoko to fight Shigaraki. There's a lot still happening here.
Also, I have to say, in the last panel with All for One, does it look like he's growing a person from his ring? What is it? His one of his fingers?
Yeah, his pointer finger. It's disturbing, and I hate this. The ugliest thing I've ever seen in My Hero Academia. You know, you can talk like the last few chapters. You've been talking about Horikoshi and his horror dreams and aspirations with Dabi. This is the scariest thing he's drawn. All for One's weird hand and all the weird things his fingers are doing. It's terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, I can see more and more, even going back to the Star arc, and just look at Shige there. It just shows more and more that, yeah, I can see that he wants to do a horror manga afterwards.
Yep, it's terrifying, and I hate it. But you know what? It makes me hate All for One even more, so I'm more invested in his downfall because it's so like I love how even in this new mask though you can also still see like the imprints of his eyes. There's just so much detail going on here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to cover about this chapter though?
Well, Bakugo and All Might is gonna die. I still stand by that.
I mean, okay. That's not relevant to this specific chapter, but we'll see. Well, I want to see what happens when Deku meets Bakugo in like 5 chapters because he's still booking there.
We forgot to mention with Fat Gum, the whole scenario there.
Yeah, I mentioned that a minute ago. Like, what's the deal with that? Like, I love how we're interested to see what happens with Mount Lady and Fat Gum too. Like these supporting characters. It's all out war, and if Horikoshi's up to drawing it, I hope he shows us every single battle because that's how invested I am at this point, seeing how this all plays out. Especially if this is the last ride, right? Let's just see how everything goes. This is why, like, we can say we're in the last arc or the last act, but I want to remind everybody that Naruto, again, referencing Naruto, but Naruto's war arc took up like 40% of Shippuden. Period.
Just 40?
I mean, it's probably closer to 50, but I'm just being nice because this is just off the top of my head. I think it started like episode 200 and ended around episode 490 or whatever. So it was close. It was close to probably 50-60%.
Fair point.
But yeah, so like that's why I don't know how long this will last. It can wrap up, like we've been saying, it can wrap up by summer's end. It can go all the way into next year. It could be this time next year, a full year from now, because if he wants to take the time to show all of these different fights, and he's reiterating all the different fights here, there are groups we didn't even know about that we meet in this chapter. Fun stuff, though. Fun stuff. It's all character driven, and the action, the art, it's great. So I can't wait, personally.
Yeah. But, well, I don't have anything else to say then.
Well, I guess we call that an episode. We will be back next week with more My Hero Academia. Isaac, where can people find you on Twitter?
Well, you can find me at Emblemaniac on Twitter.
Nice. You can also find the podcast simply at Amateur Otaku Pod. We're also wherever you get your podcasts. So Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your pods. I assume you are watching us on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe so you guys don't miss anything. We have My Hero Academia Vigilantes. We have Kaiju number 8. We are doing Spy Family every other week. We also have a new video coming out on Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. So stay tuned for all of that. I am Mike, again, at Novice Cinephile. You can find me just about everywhere, even youtube.com/Novice Cinephile. And with that, we will catch you next time. As always, go beyond. Plus
Plus
ultra.
Ultra.